Terms such as indigo, crystal, and rainbow children have been bouncing around for years. Have you ever wondered what these terms mean? And more importantly, is your child one of them? Well, today we are going to talk about new age kids from a personal parenting perspective. We're going to take it out of the realms of theoretical possibilities and share our day-to-day practical experiences with these amazing kids. Hello, my name is Sandra Jones-Keller, and I'm an intuitive pregnancy coach, spiritual energy healer, and new age kids parenting advocate. I teach new moms, pregnant moms, and want-to-be moms how to develop a deeper spiritual bond with their babies. I use a purely spiritual approach to pregnancy and trying to conceive and raising my 10-year-old daughter, Mecca. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you today with three of my most interesting people that I know. First up in our panel is my husband and parenting partner, Thomas Keller. Now, Thomas has been on his own spiritual journey for over 25 years. He's done in-depth studies in Egyptian mysticism and spirituality. He loves to travel around the world visiting ancient sites and connecting with the profound energy of these sites. Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Is there anything you want to say right now till we get back to you? Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you, so hopefully that will clear up in a second. Next up is Dr. Darnita Henry. Darnita is a chiropractor with advanced training in prenatal and pediatric care. She loves working with pregnant women to optimize their health and get their bodies ready for D-Day, delivery day. Dr. Henry is certified in the Webster technique, which relaxes the uterus, allowing the fetus to get in the optimal position for birth. Welcome, Darnita.
Hi, Sandra. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So tell us the names and number of your kids.
I have 3 children, and the first one is Madison. She is 12 years old. I have a son. His name is Mason. He is 4 years old. And the newest addition is Mariah Grace, and she is 2 months old.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Darnita. And next up is Jennifer Snell. Jennifer is a Reiki master, certified hypnotherapist, an empath, and spiritual energy healer. She enjoys using her knowledge and experience to help guide others on their spiritual path. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Sandra. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
Good.
Well, I'm so thrilled to have all of you here. Okay, so before we even get into this conversation, I want to just share some notes. So based on things that I've read and that I've heard and listened to, we put together potential attributes of New Age kids. So I say potential. And so intuitive, they're more intuitive than usual, wise beyond their years, open heart, compassionate, loving, kind, forgiving. They're very certain. They're grounded. They're very instinctual, like they come in remembering what humans are able to do. They're like in the animal kingdom. And so we're talking about like advanced physical development, walking, talking, knowing how to eat earlier than the norm, remembrance of past lives, psychic abilities, joy-filled, generous, activated DNA, and enhanced pineal gland. So these are just some of the things that I have, read and heard about. But like I said, this is talking about the practical day-to-day aspects of raising our amazing kids. Okay, so let's start this conversation. So New Age kids, what does that mean to you guys? Someone jump in.
Well, I'll jump in, Sandra. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So New Age children, I mean, it's not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for years. Also known as indigo children. Many people have been exposed to it and really don't even realize it, honestly. I think a lot of children are possessing nowadays, the whole New Age in terms of they're coming up with, being born with certain things. Like my son, I have a 1-year-old, and since he was born, he was communicating with us. He would talk to us. I mean, it was just amazing. A little boy of 1 month-old trying to have a conversation and actually telling us stuff. By 6 months, you know, my husband and I were in the room, and we're talking to the baby, and he turns around, he looks at his dad, and he's like, "Hi, Dada," and we were in shock, you know, we didn't know what to do, and I kind of overreacted, which then startled the baby a little, but things of that nature, you know, I think parents, when you're more aware of mysticism and, you know, how the world and energies are around us, then you pay attention a little bit more. But for that large percentage of people in this world that just don't have any clue, are not connected spiritually, they're not grounded, they're too busy with the day-to-day lives, you know, they don't notice it. It's lost. And I think that's where children, you know, it needs to be recognized. It needs to be kind of like cared for, because these children are being born and it's like they don't really have a voice, like people are not paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thomas, give us a
Yeah.
little bit about your perspective. And I really wanted you to join us because even though we're partners and we have similar philosophies, you bring the male perspective, which is different than, you know, which is different than mom. So share a little bit about your experience.
Yes. My experience is that as a male, I tend to be a lot less hands-on in the detailed ways. And what I recognize in Mecca is a path of her own, a life of her own coming through. And that if I was intelligent, I would, in essence, stay out of the way and support her and keep my agenda out of it as much as possible and try to distinguish between my agenda and what she came into this incarnation to do. And so I've let her explore the world while supporting her and attempting to make this environment as safe as possible. In many ways, I still let her explore the world so that she can fulfill her path from an early age and not be distracted, down, or implode in other ways I've seen many other kids do.
Thank you. Arnita?
Yes. Hi.
I want you to, you know, just share a little bit about what you noticed or your philosophy about, you know, what you've noticed in your kids.
Well, I do notice a more sensitivity, especially with the little ones, and this newest one here. We talked about it because you were basically my coach in a big way throughout the pregnancy, and you know, and since then, and we talked a lot about her spirit and her being more of a her having a more sensitive spirit, and I can tell that with her. We noticed that she like the other young lady was saying, she talks. She has conversation. Now I cannot make out exactly what she's saying, but she is definitely talking. Once a day, she pauses when I'm talking, and then when I stop talking, then she starts talking, and then I'll talk, and we communicate back and forth with each other. And I'm like, are you seriously talking? And my daughter did that. She did that babbling, but it was at a later age. This one is like 2 months and just having full-on conversations with me, you know, and laughing and joyful and that kind of stuff. So
now Mariah was born what's called in call. So tell us your understanding of that.
So my understanding of born in call is, first of all, from a physical standpoint, it is when the bag of waters has not bursted. So the baby comes out in their amniotic sac. So this is being known as being born under a veil. And so these children have more spiritual powers. Basically, they're more in tune with the spirit world. They are able to. I believe that Mariah still communicates with people and beings that I can't see. Because from the moment that she was born, she would look above my head and behind me and just smile. She'd look back there and just smile. And I'm like, do you see somebody? You know, I'm pretty convinced that she's seeing people. And I don't even think it's one body. I think it's two bodies. What did you say?
She can see your guide.
Yeah. Yes. I truly believe that she can. And I mean, just a few minutes ago, she was sitting here with me and looking off to the side. As we're talking here, she's looking off to the side and smiling.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And see, that's one of the reasons why I want to have this conversation is because one, kids have been doing that, all along. They like look up and they look out and they say things and they see things, but I think as a society, we've only seen them as these babies and not as spiritual beings. And so I think it's so important for us as parents now to nurture this, because if we don't nurture that natural intuitive instinct, the natural psychic abilities, then it will just disappear. And we nurture it by supporting them by saying, oh, I see you're looking at, what are you looking at? Oh, you're looking at your angels. Or when they say they're playing with their invisible friend, like support that. Or especially when they start remembering past lives. I remember I wrote a book earlier this year, and literally while I was editing the book, I was in the bathroom at a restaurant. So Spirit really just kind of set this up. And the little girl, I'm not sure, anywhere from 2 to 4 years old, was saying, and the woman said, oh, honey, I'm the only mother you've ever had. And the little girl said, no, I've never had this. And so the little girl was like remembering and was expressing this to her mother, but her mother couldn't see it and didn't understand. And these are the types of conversations that kids are having that have been squashed in the past. And I really want people to start recognizing that it's time to nurture this in our children and support it so that they can stay connected. Any thoughts on that?
More very young, seeing images, different people having deep relationships in the physical, and so, but it was different on and shut down. But I surely encourage them, and not. I mean, what to lose? Do you understand it? Or not? Why not encourage that imagination instead of trying to shut down or squash your child?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
you know what happens is that
Go
you
ahead.
have a lot of adults too, though, that they're very skittish, they're very standoffish about it all because they're scared. They're not informed. They don't understand it. They're not spiritually grounded. So if you're not spiritually grounded as an adult and you're not prepared for your own self, it's very difficult for you to accept what your child then brings to the table. So I think that it's very important to number one, educate the parents, obviously, if they're willing to learn, and then give them the tools that are needed to then make them feel it's okay to allow their children to grow and be on their own spiritual path. I think that's a very difficult thing as a parent because you're scared. You're scared you're making the wrong decision. You're scared that you're letting them make the wrong decision. And it's all about this whole control thing that we're taught in society, and that's the norm. And so
Yeah.
we're going against the norm, and that's where it's difficult, especially for parents that are not grounded. Myself as an individual, as I became more and more grounded, I felt more confident with allowing my oldest daughter, who's 9 years old, she'll be 10. And I feel more confident with having conversations with her and showing her text for Reiki and how to calm herself and energy. And, but let's face it, she deals with another spectrum of the other side of the family that I can't control. I can't control what she's taught by her father. I can't control, because it's two different households. So then you then come into, let's look at society of how it is right now. We have a lot of divorced families. We're dealing with a lot of separation. So then the child, you have a large population that are dealing with two different types of energy. So you can only, you have to prepare them as much as you can as a parent if you're spiritually grounded, but you don't have control over the rest of the world. And that's, it's difficult. It's difficult as a parent. But I think it's important, especially what you're doing, Sandra. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great, that we make this, we inform parents, like, look, it's okay. Let them be on their own spiritual path. Let them, discover themselves. Let them discover the world. You're there for them, but don't don't create the path. Like, let them create their own path. I think that's where the importance lies. And, talks like this will open up the eyes to many, but it's still such a large population of people that they're just not, their energy is just not there yet.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say it's most of the population, but what I have noticed is, there's more talk about intuition. There's more talk about opening your heart. There's more talk about connecting than ever before. So as the planetary energy shifts to support us with carrying and holding more light, then these types of conversations, I feel, are opening up because, with this conversation is a possibility of a new paradigm of parenting. And that's a paradigm where you're creating a partnership with your child to raise them, like Thomas was saying, creating a partnership but staying out of the way, loving and supporting, but letting Mecca find what her passion is, what her life purpose is. And so that's why we're talking about this, so that if someone walks away with one ideal that's different than what they woke up with this morning, then we've already made a difference for someone, because you just don't know, and people, I think, are looking for information. People are ready for information. They may not even know what that is. But there are a lot of us that are on a spiritual path and have been on a spiritual path that are having this conversation. How about you, Darnita? What do you think?
I definitely think that the conversation is important, because before I've had thoughts about spirituality and these types of things, but of course I had not even thought of it from a children until I had it. It was to be connected to them, because I don't know, like, even with my oldest daughter, she is 12 now, and a lot of her reactions and emotions, it's almost like I love to tap into that more spiritually and more from a standpoint of, she's not going to tell me a lot what's going on with her. She's not going to communicate it. She's going to. I have to do a lot of spirit talking with her, if that makes any sense at all. I have to kind of. I kind of can't even really talk to her. I have to just feel that energy around her and see what's going on with her. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it makes total sense. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I do think that this is important, and if it helps anybody to maybe get through those years as well. I mean, of course, I see it more, recognize it more the third child around, so I can definitely start to see things as a baby. But if it helps anybody with even their teenagers or preteens or whatever, more effectively, I mean, I think that would be awesome.
Definitely. I mean, so let's just talk about some of the parenting tools and techniques that we use, because, I was born in a time where, spanking was just the norm. That's just what you did, and, all other sorts of disciplinary things. And, for Thomas and I, our main parenting tools are universal law and mirroring. So, Thomas, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I love to. It's such a great topic, because it's the core element in our parenting. And mirroring is simply and clearly this. Anything that your child brings into the world, personality-wise or consciousness-wise, or things you like or don't like, every bit of it is a reflection of me. Every bit of it is my consciousness. A thing to my present is not a reflection of me. So, if, for example, she starts lying or stealing or any of those types of things, I don't have to punish her. I don't even look at, say anything about it to her. The best thing and most powerful thing I can do is look into my own heart, soul, and consciousness and say, well, why am I being a liar currently? Whether I'm speaking it out or I'm thinking the thoughts, or where am I stealing or taking? Whether I'm doing it in the physical world or I'm taking energetically. So I can forgive that myself, and then I transform, and she transforms automatically without ever saying a word to her. The idea is that stop trying to control the environment or the people around me and take care of my own business. Everybody around me is only showing me.
Yep. Yeah, and so it's interesting that, the things that unfold. I mean, when she was younger, and actually even now when she'll start having these stomach aches. Like all of a sudden, like everything she eats upsets her stomach, and what we realize is that she's reacting and responding to her environment. So like if there's something going on in the household, for example, Thomas had a spot on his face, and we were really kind of nervous about it, and we didn't express to her how nervous we were, but the energy was in the house, and she started having these stomach aches. And so as soon as I kind of recognized, oh, this is what it is, we had to ground ourselves and clean up our act, and then her stomach aches went away. And and so it's an interesting perspective doing it that way and not trying to control and punish her, but it keeps us on our toes because then we can see, what's going on in our household and what's going on with us. Anybody else want to share about?
Well, let me just say one more sentence about that very subject. As a male incarnation, I've recognized that sometimes I don't pick up on my own emotional state very easily, particularly fear and stuff. So if Mecca's showing me fear or stomach aches, I can look at her and see that and then double check myself. Well, maybe I'm not as straight as I thought I was. Maybe I am fearful, particularly about the skin cancer on my face. But the moment we got that taken care of and I got a clear bill of health, her stomach problems disappeared immediately.
Yeah, oh, and another example. So recently, this is a great one. So had taken some money out of her room. And, and I love this because we didn't even know. And so her friend actually returned the money and gave her additional money. So we're looking at that as feedback like, wow, that's pretty cool. So she hadn't taken from, didn't know it, and then it was returned to her and it was multiplied. So I'm looking at her saying that, you're doing pretty good then because, you don't have that energy of being taken from. And so that's how we, use each other. I remember one time we were leaving a movie theater and she was looking really strange. It was on to see a 3D movie. And she was looking really weird. I'm like, well, what's up? And she just had this strange expression. All of a sudden, these 3D glasses like fell out of some place that she was hiding them. I'm like, oh, you want the glasses? And she's like, yeah. I said, well, you have to ask me. She's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, I said, ask. I said, you don't have to take the glasses because then that creates the energy of taking. That creates the energy of stealing them. You're going to be afraid that you're going to be taken from, or someone will take them. Let's just go ask. So we went and asked the theater if she could have them, and they said, fine. That's how we use like the mirroring and the universal law in the day-to-day practical aspects of raising her. Who else would like to share?
Well, I mean, I have, Sabrina, as you know, she's 9, and then I have Aiden, which is only 1. So with Aiden, we just kind of let him explore everything, and, instead of trying to tell him no too much, we kind of show him something positive out of what he's trying to get into. So it's like, oh, you're trying to open the cabinets and pull everything out. Let's applaud when you close the cabinet. So, with him, it's just more positive reinforcement because he just gets into everything. And he's so active, he started walking at 8 months. So now he's running. And with him, it's so different to being older, I think, and more knowledgeable and grounded and being a parent. It's a very big difference. And Darnita, you probably can understand because you have a 12-year-old and then you have a 2-month-old. So I think that when you have such
Yes.
a huge difference in age, you also mature wise, after you have one kid, then by the time the second
Hmm.
kid comes or the third kid comes, you just have such a totally different view on how you let them explore and
Yes.
how you explain things, and it's just so different. With Sabrina, my oldest one, I did notice as well, she started having a lot of stomach issues whenever there was a lot of bad energy or certain things going around. And my way of helping her, because I do, energy healing, and I'm an empath, so I feel things immediately, anyone that's around me. So it's a little difficult because I feel it 10 times more, so when she does have her moments that she is going through something, because she is going to be 10 soon, and just personality wise, who she is, and her growth and development, who she's become and who she's becoming, she tends to stay very quiet. She's not, the one to go ahead and tell me right away what's going on. She holds on to things. So I have to read her energy. I have to pull it out of her sometimes. Sometimes I have to call her out on stuff, and she does not like it. She says, Mama, I don't like when you're reading my mind, and sometimes I do it purposely, so she can know that I'm very aware of her energy and very aware that there's more going on than what she's telling me. And sometimes I give her that space and allow her to figure it out, because let's face it, I'm not always going to be there. I'm not always going to be able to answer everything. So lately, it's been more of me acknowledging certain moments, asking her, telling her, be honest with me. Tell me what you feel. Let's talk about things. Sometimes I'll tell her, well, I noticed that you have a different energy, so I'm going to let you be, and you think about it, and you have your quiet time and reflect and try to meditate. And if you have any questions, let me know. So I kind of have pulled back a little bit, just so I can give her the opportunity to figure things out. She tends to also come from, her generation. Some of them tend to be very entitled too, because they kind of, I'm dealing with that as well, like I deserve this or I deserve that, so because we have a little bit of that comes into play, I need her to see that she's her own person, and she needs to make decisions. She needs to be aware of her energy. She needs to be aware that her energy affects people, and affects things around her. So it's not just about her. It's not, I'm trying to take away that selfishness, because even though for many years since she was little, she was, very compassionate, very quiet, very delicate, very sensitive, intuitive. She's actually very intuitive. However, because of the environments that she's exposed to, unfortunately, they pick up on other things. So, these negative aspects of being selfish or attempting, like, you were explaining how, they may attempt to do things that are not so just and moral. It's like you want to point it out, but you want them to figure it out too, so that way they can take that initiative to be a better person, truly want to be a good person. So that's really right now, I think, depending on the age that you're at with your children, depends on how you're going to go about teaching them. I think it's very important. And at this age of 9, 10, and that preteen, it's important to guide them, in a certain way.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, guys. We're actually almost right at a half hour, and I wanted to keep this short so that people can kind of get a nugget and watch the whole thing. But I'd like to do this again. I mean, there's so many things that we didn't get an opportunity to cover this first time around. So does anyone have any final closing remarks that they'd like to add before we close down?
Something just to close on a quick fun note. If anybody wants to, let's just name one experience we had with our child that's different from ordinary world, like Mecca and I. clearly have past lives together and have been brother and sister, and often talk that way to each other, particularly in their earliest years. It's a blast.
Yeah, and you still do, actually.
Have you ever gotten past life regression, though, through hypnotherapy?
I have not. I have
Okay.
not.
Well, I studied, obviously I'm certified hypnotherapist, but I personally got it done. And I ended up finding out that Sabrina and I were in a past life together, and she actually was like above me in terms of she was a white witch and she was like my teacher. And the woman that did the past life, she actually told me, she said, listen, you're always going to be challenged by Sabrina because in her past life, she was above you and she taught you things. So in this life, you're going to always feel like she's trying to really challenge you as her mother, and she doesn't really want to really listen to what you have to say because it bothers her. And she really, I was like in shock. I'm like, are you serious? And that's how it's always felt. Always had that relationship. So Thomas, if you really feel that you have been a brother and sister in a past life, I wouldn't doubt it, because usually that energy is created because you guys have been in a past life before.
Yeah. And for me, I communicated with Mecca in utero and literally created a partnership with her to get through my high-risk pregnancy. I mean, I would ask her questions, and she would, always say, Mom, I'm fine. Mom, I'm fine. I'd ask her what she needed. And so I started my, pre-birth communication at when I was about 3 months pregnant, and that is what got me through my high-risk pregnancy. And to this day, I use my intuition. Like whenever anyone asks her if she can go somewhere with them, I kind of check in and see how it feels first before I answer, before I even talk to Thomas about it. Because if it doesn't even feel right, it just stops right there. And if it feels like it's okay, then we'll have a conversation. So that's how I use intuition now, amongst other ways. Darnita, any closing remarks for you?
No, I just want to say that I think this is so exciting. I'm excited just sitting here listening to you all. So that I haven't said a whole lot just because the conversation is awesome. I'm so excited to be a part of this and to start to have these conversations. And because people, I think that they just don't know. Sometimes they have a little intuition that these, but it's almost like they need someone to say, you know what, you're right. You know what? Because we always say, have you been here before? You always hear people say that. They ask little kids, have you been here before? Yes, they've been here before. They certainly have. It's just how many times have they been here before?
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for participating today. Like I say, I'd like to, make these kind of an ongoing thing because there's so much to talk about. I mean, we really just barely scratched the surface. So thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions or would like additional information, you can reach me on my website, sandrajoneskeller.com. Please look at my other YouTube videos. I've got tons of video on trying to conceive, on pregnancy, on the medium in your baby. And also, I have a new book, Intuitive Communication with Your Baby Soul. It's not just for pregnant women. It's for anyone who's thinking about having kids or has kids, and just talks about the spiritual relationship between you and your child. So until next time, have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.